Hello everyone. In this video we are going to continue our tutorials on Odoo OWL JavaScript. So in our last video we added a button near create in the list view. In this video we are going to add it in the form view. So as you can see, I have added a custom button in 3 different locations. One is before the new button, which is the default Odoo button. The second one is after that, and the third one is here just before the pager. And each of this button performs what it says, reload. So whenever we create these buttons, it basically reloads the page. So this is what we are going to implement in this tutorial. So let's start the implementation straight away. Alright, so here as you can see, I have this module already. It's a basic form view with the simple field name. We will try to add those custom buttons here in the form view, but before going into the coding, I want to take you to the documentation of OWL to understand a concept called slots. So slots are basically used in OWL to integrate different components in the same page. Now, for example, if I go back to this form view, then it's quite possible that this specific area is rendered with a specific slot, and this area over here is rendered with another slot. So slots are just different components of the same page. You can go to this OWL JavaScript documentation and you can read about it. So we are going to discuss this basically. So here as you can see that this is a basic div, and here they are using 2 slots, title and content, and these slots are defined here. So whenever this page is rendered, it will be displaying this specific title. It could be HTML also, and it goes here, and same for the content, it will go here. So this is a basic concept in OWL JavaScript. It uses slots, which is very helpful so that you can manage your page, different components of your page, and it doesn't get so much messy. Now if I go to this specific form view, the one which is rendered by Odoo, and if I try to inspect this, I'll just zoom it. We basically need to go here. So if I go to Odoo code, I have already opened this one. This is a control panel, web.control panel. This is the template which is actually being rendered here, and that you can know by going into this and trying to search that here. So this is basically that div, the main div which is being rendered here. So what we want here is to put inside that div our custom buttons. So first we have to find out the code for that new button. So if you go to this web.control panel template, and this file is located at web control panel.xml. So if we go here, and if I scroll down a little bit, we will find that there is a slot being used named control panel create button. So this is actually the slot that we want. We have to put our buttons inside this slot, or we can create a whole new slot for our button, and we can just render that slot after this specific slot. And if I go to the form controller, web.form controller form view, we can find that slots are being set here. So this is basically the slot control panel create button, which is being created here, and it is being used here in the parent form view, in the parent view, which is control panel. So let's just try out. As you can see, there is written new, and if I just rename it to create, and go back to the front end and activate my debug mode, and then we have to regenerate the asset bundles. You can see that create is coming here instead of new. So this is basically the button which is being rendered there. What we want is to, let me regenerate. So now it is back to new. So what we want is to put our button either inside this slot, or what I prefer, we should create a new slot, a whole new slot for our code, for our custom button. So I'll go to my module and I'm gonna create a new file, formController.xml. Alright, so I have created an XML file named formController.xml, and here actually we are going to inherit two templates, one for the control panel and one for the form view. In the form view we are going to add our slot, and in our control panel we are going to put that slot after the new button or wherever we want. So let's first create our slot. So you'll just name this specific template whatever you want. We have to inherit web.formView, and the mode of our inheritance would be extension. So what we want is to put inside that layout our newly created slot. So first we have to get the layout using XPath, and inside this we are going to put our newly created slot. You can create a slot by using this narrative tSetSlot, and then you can just name it whatever you want. So as a convention I'm just going to name it, so actually we want this specific button to reload the page whenever we click it, so I'll just name it as control panel reload button slot. And of course inside this slot what we want is the button. We can just add some class which would be let's say button and opacity trigger, or you can just put whatever. This is just basic class. Type would be button and title would be reload, and this button will be displayed as reload. So we have successfully added a slot, but it will not just display this specific button in the control panel. For that we have to inherit the control panel and add this specific slot inside that. So first let's try to create that button before new. So what we want to do here is we want to add that button before the new button. So this is where our slot is being used for the create button, and this is the main div for the buttons. So we'll just use the XPath and put that specific slot before this specific div. So I'm just gonna use XPath expr, just put div. I'm gonna use has class, and then we just put the class. This would be in our case this one, or we are going to use this one. So here our create button is being used, so I'm gonna use this div, and before this div I'm just gonna put the button. Position in this case would be before, and here we are just going to simply call our slot, this slot, and now we don't have to use set, we can just simply call our slot. Now we need to put this specific file in the manifest. In the manifest I'm gonna put it in the web assets backend. So I'm just gonna use the path that would be module name, static source XML, and form controller .xml. So let's just try to upgrade our module and let's see if we get the button or not. Go and upgrade our module. Alright, let's refresh here. Yeah, so you can see we have this reload button here, but as of now it doesn't do anything. If I click on this button, it will not do anything because we have not defined any on click function or anything for this specific button. So let's go to our form controller.js. I have created a JS file. Let me just add this file here. JS and folder would be JS. So now we can close our manifest and let me go to form controller.js. Alright, so what we want basically is to add inside the form controller a function which we can use once the reload button is clicked. So I have already imported the required controller here, and we are going to use patch. This utility from OWL we can use to just extend or override any component in OWL. So it's like before OWL we used to extend using extends or includes. Now we can just use patch to basically create our own patch and put it inside the form controller or whatever component you want. So I'm just going to create a new patch. We'll call it form controller patch, and inside this we are going to create a function. Let me just create a async function so that it gets finished properly. So let's just create a method called or a function called OWL reload current form. So for now let's just console log something. Hello world. Now we have just created this patch, but we have to apply this patch to this controller. So for that we are going to use this patch facility from OWL, and we are going to use form controller dot prototype, and we are going to apply our patch to this. So basically this contains the main form controller, and we are telling using this that we are going to put this specific thing inside this. So for now let's just upgrade the module and let's see if it prints the hello world or not. So I'm just going to upgrade my module. Alright, so let's refresh and open our console. Let me clear the console, and if I click on reload, alright, so we have to regenerate the assets bundle. Okay, so it is still not printing because we have still not defined this as an on click event for our button. So I'm gonna go back to this, and here we have to write t on click. That's it. So it's it's defined as an on-click method. So whenever this button is clicked, this on-click event will trigger this function. So I'm gonna go back. We can just simply regenerate the assets bundle so that we get the latest updated JavaScript. Now if I click on reload, you see that it is printing hello world. Now let's try to reload the page when we click reload. So for that we are going to use an action service that is already there from Odoo. So we are going to use service. So first of all, we are going to define our action service in the constructor. In my previous video, I have already told you that this behaves as a constructor. So first we need to get whatever in the parent, since we are extending the parent, so we don't want to miss those things. And then we are going to add an action service, and that we'll get from use service here. The service name is action, and using this action service we can simply reload. So we just need to put comma here. You can just reload the whole page. Now we are going to use the action service, and it has a method called doAction. In the method we need to specify the type of action, which will be ir.actions.client, and we can specify the tag, which in our case will be reload. So whenever we click this button and this event is triggered, it will reload. It will call the reload action. So let's just go back and regenerate the assets bundle. And if I click on reload, it will reload the page. Now to put this button after the new or here, we can just simply go to this control panel.xml, and we can just modify our XPath here. Instead of this, we can use different div to put our specific slot. So this is how we can just add a button in the form view, just like we did in the last video in the list view, and perform different actions. Now obviously we can do a lot of other stuff with this button, and we can perform many handy functions with this specific button. So this is how we are going to add it. Thanks for watching the video.